Hello, everybody. This is One Woman Preach podcast, funded by Lilly Endowment, and we're deeply grateful for their generosity. Today, we have Reverend Dr. Joanne Rodriguez, and Joanne is the Executive Director of Hispanic Theological Initiative. Since 2002. Under her leadership, HTI has grown leap and bounds, and Joanne is a one of a kind that I deeply admire, and she's my role model. Who is this woman? Young Lee Hertig. I'm the executive director of Isaac Innovative Space for Asian American Christianity. Starting this year, we define when women preach the word preaching far broader than just a pulpit. Following John Wesley's emphasis, the world is my parish, we want to take preaching to the public square as well. So we are beginning 2026 with Reverend Dr. Joanne Rodriguez to shine some light in terms of navigating institutional leadership and scaling up institution. And she's done that. So Hispanic Theological Initiative enters into 30th anniversary this year, and Isaac celebrates 20th. So Joanne, what are your secret sauces of growing HTI in a way that you have done? You've mentored so many Latino scholars and also help them to find their position in academy. And I know you have MDiv from Princeton Seminary and THM at Princeton Seminary and an honorary doctorate at ILIF School. And you also have banking experience. Not many seminary grad has that experience. So if you can share a little bit about what it took, what it has taken you to bring HTI to this far under your leadership.
First, I want to say thank you so much, Young, for this invitation and for being part of Isaac. I've also served as a board member of Isaac.
That's right. That's so important. Yes, you are a board of director of Isaac.
And I mentioned that because I've also been highly influenced and um, have found that your leadership has spoken volumes to me as I lead HTI. So thank you for your perseverance in the midst of many challenges and also for how you've grown Isaac while you've been leading it. So it's a mutual admiration and I really appreciate you. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
Um,
Joanne.
in regards to the secret sauce, oh my gosh, what a question. I have to say that when I came to HTI 26 years ago, actually, because
Wow.
I was first introduced to HTI. I was hired by Justo Gonzalez, the historian,
Uh-huh.
and HTI was moving to Princeton Theological Seminary from Emory University.
Mhm.
And Saida Maldonado Perez at the time was going to be the director, sign director. Prior to her was Daisy Machado, and then I was coming in as her assistant at the time.
Mm.
Little did I know, I mean, this was a grant-funded program at the time from the Pew Charitable Trust.
Mhm.
And so we were told that if anything, we were hired for sure for 3 years, and then after that, there was no security. So
Mm.
I was finishing my master's program and was trying to discern what was going to be next for me. And this was almost, in my mind, then it was a stepping stone into maybe ministry,
Mhm.
pastorates. And here we are, um, 26 years later, as
Mhm.
the executive director for 22 out of those 26 years. HTI has gone through a lot of transitions. At one point, we were very close to getting the doors actually closed of HTI. That period was 2010. Funding had been depleted. There was no guarantee of additional funding. And so there was no real security at the time. Staffing was down to two individuals, myself and Angela Shope, who has also been here 26 years. Required a new level of, new understandings of how even how to lead at that time.
Mm-hmm.
My banking has played a role because financially I stewarded the funds of HTI really well, with at times not having enough funding, but finding ways to continue, like reviewing what was most important to keep of HTI
Mm-hmm.
and doing that with quality and care
Mm-hmm.
and measuring, always measuring to show the impact of the program. And by having that strategy, we were able to try, and also communications of the successes, consistently having a newsletter that promoted the scholars that were going through the program and even after they completed their degrees, showing the impact that they were making in the larger context of theological and religious education. And so it was, multi-pronged approach that
Yes.
worked. And having conversations with different funders that initially there were no's, we're not funding that at this time, or we're not interested at this time. But maintaining those relationships and continuing to highlight what was working eventually caught their attention. And also the graduates of the program going out there and contributing their scholarship, their leadership in particular spaces. They would then speak of the importance of HTI, and they also were able to get the attention of these institutions and these funders to want to support HTI. So
It's,
perseverance, if there's a word that I would say is community and perseverance.
I see your amazing leadership and the fruits of your labor. You had your moments of, making bricks without much straws, but in an American Academy of Religion and Society of Biblical Literature, just your banquet is one of my highlights going to AAR and SBL. And I remember one particular banquet in San Antonio where there was an announcement from Chris Coble. $16 million grant to HTI. And I literally was just admiring all the hard pedaling you have done. That was a moment to remember. And I kept that moment in my heart. And I'm thinking, whoa, how can I follow that footstep?
So I think we have to back up a little bit
Yes.
because it was 7.3 million and that was the 25th anniversary, and that was when we had a hybrid. We had to reinvent the 25th anniversary. So let me go back a little bit to
Yeah.
then share some very specific information that I think would be very important for people. So it's funny you mentioned the 20th anniversary because we didn't have money to run the 20th anniversary. We went to the member council committee, which are the consortium that was established to grow HTI during that very challenging period where a fee was paid by these institutions to enroll the students into HTI. And we asked them for an additional $500. So we were going to have, at that time, we had 24 members. And so $500 times 24 was going to give us $12,000 to do the reception in San Antonio. That's not a lot of money. But we thought that that would be an approach to get started. And at the same time, a student that had come to HTI for the first time ever was so impressed with what we did that summer at the Professional Development Conference that he knew an officer at Kellogg, and Kellogg approached us to give us $100,000 grant. But we had to make sure that we got some matching funds for the $100,000, which we then had to ask different member schools, publishing houses, nonprofit organizations, and theological education to buy ads for a brochure that we published for the 20th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
That brought in another $35,000. And with those funds, we then went to one of our member schools, Oblate School of Theology, and asked them to provide the space. They had a beautiful banquet hall.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have to pay for the banquet hall. One of the HTI scholars knew the executive chef of a food bank there that supported the local community, the poor community, but also did catering. And so we were able to hire them at a very decent price to do the catering for 350 people.
Mm.
We then had a committee of HTI scholars who were local help support the event locally. And they identified where we could get resources for the event at little to no cost. And they also made donations. By that unite, that's why we use the word in conjunto at HTI, because it means that the community is supporting and supportive.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to put together an amazing, one of the scholars also knew one of the congressmen at the time and was able to invite them for them to speak, one of the Castro brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And so we even had a representative from the government speak at that banquet. So students from Princeton and students from Boston University, a HILA program that Christina La Rosa runs, were invited, and they also volunteered and supported the event that evening. With all of that, trying to unite all of those resources, making sure everything aligned. We had an event where we had a banquet with 350 people present.
Mm-hmm.
It was, when you say it was so impressive,
Yeah.
the Lilly officers were there. And soon after that event, we applied for a $1.6 million grant, and we got it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when funding started to change in 2016 for HTI. And so that kind of collaboration continued
Mm-hmm.
for our 25th anniversary, which was during the pandemic. Our scholars at the time, in particular, I hired one of them who graduated, João Chavez, and Erica Ramirez. They were on the committee, and they wanted to make sure that we had 350 people minimum for the 25th anniversary. And I was laughing because there was no way we would do that faithfully without getting people sick.
Mm-hmm.
So then we kept working together and figuring out how to make it happen. And we had a hybrid event where we had over 250 people on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And 5 of our schools gathered smaller groups at their institutions. And we were able to have 450 people attend a 1-hour session on Zoom for the 25th anniversary. And that is where Chris Cobo announced that we were receiving a $7.3 million grant, which was the largest grant that HTI has received to date.
That was
Um,
7.3?
it's 7.3. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I heard it double the amount.
Thank you for saying that. And my hope is that that does come in the future, but it was 7.3. That was a huge accomplishment for HTI after struggling for over 10 years to keep the doors open. And then that relationship has flourished greatly, thankfully, where HTI consistently gets funding from the Lilly Endowment to support HTI scholars in the pipeline. And they love our motto of the consortium, which
Mm-hmm.
is 20. Right now, it's 23 schools that are members, and they send their students, and we have at least minimally 60 students a year
Hmm.
from 24 schools that enroll their students in HTI.
So, Joanne, there's power of community and loyalty, and then enormous number of people showing up. And I was on a high in San Antonio in that room. The energy level was really high. So, how do you sustain that kind of alumni loyalty and them paying it forward? How do you do that?
Well, I think that one of the things about, I mean, PhD studies is the highest level of education in the United States. But when you do a study of Latino communities, you realize that we still have a real challenge for Latino students reaching master levels to then go into PhD studies.
Hmm.
For many communities, that is just not something that, not that they don't wish or desire it or want to achieve that, it's just financially, there's community can work for us and sometimes it can work against us, right? Or family can work for us or work against us.
Hmm.
There's such a dedication to family, such a dedication to staying local, such a dedication to wanting to be in the same space that this becomes sometimes unattainable because of the other commitments and responsibilities that you hold to your family.
Hmm.
So to be able to reach that level and sustain it, because sometimes students do get accepted, do start a program, but we know the numbers for everybody. More than
Right.
50% of students do not finish a PhD. It's also a very costly endeavor when you get to the PhD level because you've already incurred debt at the bachelor level, incurred debt at the master's level, and now you're gonna incur debt at the PhD level. And this debt is, basically like a mortgage payment. To then at the end of it, the salaries are not like in banking or in other fields where you can pay that back. So you have to be very dedicated, and you also need a support structure that helps you reach that level and sustain it. And what HTI has done over the years is that it has created a structure, a holistic approach to supporting a student through those studies and do it within a reasonable amount of time. And fortunately, with the funding from the Lilly Endowment, lessen the debt so that students do finish and are hired and do maintain also their positions as faculty and eventually tenured faculty because we stay in community. And I think one of the key things is that we don't treat our students as numbers. We
Mm.
treat them as human beings. We listen to them. We have tweaked programming to make sure that it meets the demands of the times. As we know, especially in the last 6 or 7 years, things have changed drastically.
Mm.
The pandemic was huge changes, and then there's been a lot of issues with changes in the government, changes in support, and the structure that HCI has built is one that listens attentively and then tries to adjust and adapt for what the demands of the times are for students. And I know that students see this and really appreciate it. The other thing is that we're not one denomination. We are ecumenical, we're
Yes.
multidisciplinary, we're multi-ethnic.
Hmm.
And so we get we support all and any student without trying to change the student and what it is that they're interested in. And when individuals, and not just Latinos, find a space where they can be their whole self and not feel like they have to change because of an institution or religious beliefs, it really helps them it allows them to want that and want to pay it forward.
Yeah.
Because there are not too many spaces like that, not only in theological education, but anywhere.
Hmm.
So
So,
we are creating a space that is life-giving and life-transforming.
hmm.
Not only and then they take that with them when they go out. and the way that they teach, the way that they lead in their organizations. And that's why we're seeing a flourishing of communities across the theological education and programming led by Latinos, not just for Latinos, but for the institution as a whole.
You know, you emphasize consortium and some other academic institutions, they've had consortium and they failed eventually. I'm just hearing in between the lines of your sharing that there's an enormous power of that communal approach to the consortium building so that that relationship and strong relationship really pays off in making this consortium model possible. I was talking with somebody in academy and they said, don't use the word consortium. That's a faded out, archaic term. But here you were telling me how that power of HTI consortium is even getting stronger today. So
Yeah.
that is something I'm noticing.
Well, I think with any relationship, your communication is key. And I think I know that that is one of the ways in which we have strengthened the consortium. For example, when the support is given to students, the mentor visits the school and meets with their advisor, meets with faculty, and maybe even meets with the dean. We have after the pandemic with Zooming, we Zoom now with all advisors and editors to speak to them about the support that we provide the students, how we're there also to support the advisors. Sometimes, communication is not quite working, like the
Mm-hmm.
student is not understanding what the advisor is requesting of them. And so an editor is not there to tell the student how to write their dissertation, is there to support and partner with the institution and the student to make sure that the dissertation gets written.
Mm-hmm.
With the mentoring, the same thing. We're not there to tell the institution what to do and how to take care of the students, but we're there more so to partner. What's working, what's not working? How can we be supportive in making sure that this works? We have a monthly email that goes out to all the deans and all the presidents, keeping them informed of
Right.
HTI programming, of enrollment of students, of success stories, of next meetings that we're having every single month. They get that. And so all of that communication, yes, it's work and
Yes.
time consuming, but it allows all the partners to know where we stand, what we support, what's expected, and what's not working and what we need to do to improve it.
So you're transparent in that way, and your metrics and qualities speak volumes, and those become, further funding tools as you communicate. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, donors wanted to, every donor has a different interest. And if you're a match, you want to make sure that you're communicating with your donor the successes of what it is that they're interested in. And so we don't only do that once a year. We try to communicate. So member schools are like donors. They're buying into the consortium
Mm-hmm.
to then see if their students are going to receive the support the HTI is saying that they're going to give them and that they're successful.
Mm-hmm.
And the study was done in 2010 by Barbara Wheeler, who now has gone on. And oh gosh, I'm blanking out on her name now. Oh, she's at Columbia Theological Seminary. I'm so sorry. But anyway, that study showed that schools, and in 2003, there was a study done by another professor at Princeton University at the Woodrow School, and I'm terrible with names. But anyway, both of these studies show that a lot of money is pumped into PhD studies,
Right.
but it wasn't making students successful at finishing the PhDs. There was in one of the studies it showed that some PhDs were lost in the process. There was no real accountability the support structure wasn't there. And so with HTI having such a structured and focused attention each year, even fellowships are not paid unless progress is made. That then showed some key numbers that are real: 92% graduation rate, average time to degree, 5.5 years. A more than 85% of HTI scholars are hired in theological education as faculty or nonprofit leaders. Over so many years now, they're presidents, there's full faculty, there's tenured faculty, and then the contributions that they're making at these institutions. All of that data is what I mean by measuring.
Yeah.
We have been intentional at measuring the impact of the support that we've provided. Plus,
Yeah.
we are also the institution that's building the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
There's really no other institution in theological education that I know that is as intentional at building a pipeline of scholars for theological religious education. Peace.
Okay. So then there are some unknown factors on the horizon. Many higher ed institutions sing blues. And when you look at that kind of a higher educational landscape today, what are your trajectory of HTI and what kind of reinventing or adjustment do you think you need to make if you are?
Those blues have been sung since I've been in this position 20, and first to a certain point they're true. And so what do you do with that? So what we've done is that we are creating a space where we're doing professional development for leaders in theological education, right? Theological religious education. That leadership can be in a tenured faculty role. It could be in a nonprofit leadership role. It could be in a publishing role. It could be, there's so many different industries.
I
And
see.
the lack of those voices, the lack of Latino contributions is still so high, that the need for them to be still hired is there.
Mm-hmm.
Whether the numbers are lower and the
Mm-hmm.
opportunities are less, we cannot stop creating leaders for such a time as this. And
More
such a time
important.
as this is always such a time as this,
Always.
right? So we need to be intentional about understanding that the work that we do is important, whether we do it for 50 students or we do it for 100 students, because there's still a lack, right? And it's unfortunate that that lack is there, but it also, like in a business term, where are you most successful? Where you know what the need is and you
Mhm.
create a product that fulfills that need. And so from a
Yeah.
business perspective, the need is still there. So from that perspective, what do you build to make sure that need is satisfied? And that's
Mm-hmm.
what we do. So we have to tweak it, we tweak it. If we have to change it, we change it. If we have to move it around or do something different, we do that. But we don't stop because the
Mm-hmm.
need is still there.
You're right. I'm always evolving. I guess what one of the author calls it growth mindset. And life gets flat and boring if you do the same thing over and over again in this challenging moment in our history. And our work is much more important. So, last question I have for you is again tied to collaboration and consortium. When you invite new institution or new presidents to join HTI, can you unpack some of those? What would take for collaboration to be successful? What are the qualities you are looking for? Because collaboration is buzzword,
Mhm.
but what makes collaboration, you know, deliverable and possible
You have
and
to be
even
Mhm.
successful?
Number one, commitment. It's A school that comes to us and says we want to be a part of HTI needs to be able to articulate to us that being part of HTI means that they are going to sign up for the full membership. They're going to be intentional about sending students.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be open to the mentoring of students and that relationship, the editing support that HTI gives, coming to the meetings, being part of the decision making of HTI,
Mm-hmm.
speaking highly of the organization and the contribution, putting it on the website.
Mm-hmm.
Early on, we had 30 members. I mean, I worked really hard during our dry years, and
Mm-hmm.
we raised the membership to 30 members. When we changed the fee structure,
Mm-hmm.
those schools never sent us students. They really didn't send us any students. When we changed the fee structure, they signed off immediately. And that was a clear indication that they weren't committed to the mission, to growing the mission and the vision of HTI. The
Mm-hmm.
members we have now, they're committed.
Mm-hmm.
They, after 19 years, the consortium is 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
After 19 years, they are committed. They pay their fees. They send students. They are welcoming of mentors. They sign on to Zoom meetings when we have meetings. That's the partners that we're looking for. And if I send them, if they say we want to be partners, and I send a letter and say this is the next steps for you to, and they don't respond after that, then that's a clear indication that there's no commitment there.
Yeah.
Right? Because someone that's very committed is going to respond right away, and they're either going to say, "Well, the fee structure, can we discuss that? Can we find a way to still be a member?" Whatever the hiccup could be,
Mm-hmm.
because there could be. Some institutions are financially challenged,
Yeah.
but there's a commitment to still say we want to be part of this. We
Mm-hmm.
are fully committed. We're in 100%.
I mean, all the who's of Latina leaders all went through HTI, and they see the results, and it keeps growing. So I can see why
Amen.
institutions and people are committed, and it's wonderful to know that you will be celebrating 30th anniversary at American Academy of Religion and Society for Biblical Literature. I look forward to that. So if you can just say when, and some of the listeners may come to Denver this year. So why
Yes.
don't you pitch it for us?
Absolutely. So we are meeting the banquet itself, but prior to that, if somebody wants to buy an ad for the 30th anniversary, just to be in touch with HTI at HTI at ptsem.edu, or they can email me, Joanne.Rodriguez at ptsem.edu. The event itself, right now, we have it scheduled for November 20th at 6 p.m. thus far at the Metropolitan State University, and more details will come via email and social media once the final details are put together. But so far, we have confirmed the location, the date, the time, which is Friday, November 20th in Denver at AARSBL. And we would be delighted to have anyone who's listening and will be at the event to come and join us that evening.
It's an event to remember, and it's a feast, both spiritual, psychological, and physical. So that's
Yes.
my highlights of going to AR and SBL. So I'm sure the room will be packed full and there will be a lot of testimonials. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm signing up and I'll be inviting my board chair as well. So
Wonderful.
yes, we will show up.
I appreciate your sisterhood and all of this. And so I'm excited to be at your 20th anniversary.
Thank you. If you are out there, please contact HTI for their 30th anniversary. And Isaac's 20th anniversary is on April 19th. It's on Sunday from 4 to 7 p.m. in Pasadena. You're going to get some real treat when you sign up for these two events. And Thank you, Joanne, and we appreciate many of you downloading our podcast. I think we exceeded more than 8,800 downloads. So we want to reach 10,000 in terms of our reach. So stay tuned for our next podcast as well. And thank you.